Hello and welcome to the Flame and Fiber podcast. My name is Barbara. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Diva S. It has been a very long time since I did an actual podcast. According to my notes, my last podcast was in May, and I think that's probably correct. Oh, I'm going to have to jiggle you because you're sitting on my notes. Oh, lordy loo. Well, a lot has happened since May for all of us. Oh, let me get some of that junk out of the way. Oh, no, too much junk. Can't get the junk out of the way. Look how empty my bins are. I didn't knit all that. It's on my guest room bed where I was trying to go through it and sort it, and I haven't unsorted it yet. I did a little video while I was dumping it out and everything, and that may come at the end of this. We shall see. So far, I am not having a lot of success with my videos. In fact, I told Dennis I don't think I can do this tonight. But I can. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. If you're finding this after all this time, thank you, thank you. I feel like, you know, Chevy Rawl says, it's been a minute. It has been a minute. Holy cow. Well, one of the many things that has happened between now and May is that I almost completely lost my knitting mojo, which was really distressing, as you can imagine. You know, I don't know exactly what it all was, but a lot of it had to be coronavirus lockdown. I'm in the middle of my 3rd year of the sweater. So it could just be I've just sweatered out. It's possible. Could happen. You know, that could be it. Whatever it is, you know, what warmer weather was coming. I live in southeastern Pennsylvania, and anyway, I lost my knitting mojo, and I can tell you that did not make me happy. I have been painting. I started watercolors last December, and I talked about it in my previous videos, my previous podcasts, which were a long time ago. And I have continued to do that, and I have plans for some watercolors. I want to make some cards, and I want to do some other things, and I am excited about my watercolor. But just like my knitting, I feel like I have like inertia humps to get over, and I'm not sure what that's about and whatever. So I'm working on that. But one of my plans for my watercolors is that I'm going to start to try to really improve my skills. I never really did that with knitting. I just knit the next thing that I wanted. And, you know, if it was a new technique, I tried the new technique or whatever. And, you know, I think I'm a pretty good knitter. I think I could knit almost anything I tried if I wanted to, i.e. I'm not knitting color work because I don't enjoy doing it. I have done it, but I didn't love it. I didn't enjoy it. But anyway, you know, I mean, I feel like I could sit down and figure out whatever it was that I wanted to knit if I wanted to knit it. That I don't find to be true for my watercolors. I feel like there are a lot of skills that I don't have. I've never thought of myself as any good at drawing, and I have a lot of reason to believe that I'm not very good at drawing, or I haven't been in the past, given the sketches I tried to do when I was making jewelry, and I tried to sketch jewelry and it was horrible. I mean, I'm not showing you that. But so there are, you know, skills I don't have that I really would like to have. And so one of the things I really kind of want to do is try to get better try to get better at drawing, try to learn more techniques in watercolor. I've been watching videos about all different kinds of things. I was just watching Landscape Artist of the Year, Sky TV from Britain, and the show ended. I looked at Dennis. I said, I need to get those acrylics out that I have in that box somewhere. So I may expand beyond watercolors. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm thinking about my art, and I'm feeling like I really would like to work on, getting better. But this is a knitting podcast, and in fact, I have some knitting. But one of the reasons why I was feeling, did I start out saying I wasn't sure if I was going to do this or not, was because my first FO that I wanted to talk about is Christy's wedding shawl. My daughter Christy got married in September to her lovely Rich. And I was in the middle of zero mojo, and so I'm like, we're worried about it's going to be cool. It was September 5th in central Pennsylvania, which when she looked at like the historical temperatures, it could be anything. And I'm like, what if it's chilly? She says, I'm going to make myself like a little linen shrug or a little linen jacket. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I have no mojo. And, she announced her wedding relatively quickly. I think she did that whole thing in like 6 weeks. So I'm like, what kind of a knitter mother am I if I'm not going to make my only daughter a shawl for her wedding? The worst. I think that has to be like the worst knitter mother in the world. So I'm like, okay, I'm knitting a shawl. And I decided to knit a shawl. And when I was done with it, I did a finished object video to show you the shawl because, of course, I was giving it to her. She was going to take it home. I wasn't going to have it. And there was no way I was doing a podcast before the wedding. So I did this lovely finished objects video, which is nowhere to be found on any equipment I own. I told Dennis, that's it. I'm not podcasting. But I have the yarn, I have the pattern, and I have some photos. So I will be showing some photos on top of my face or whatever I'm going to do here, when I'm editing, whatever feels like it's going to make sense. I'm not going to be leaning over and everything. You're just going to get my face covered up. So what? Nobody cares. So the pattern that I picked, I picked one pattern and I don't remember the name of it. Actually, I could look it up and I might even put it there. So that in case you wanted to look it up, you could see how ridiculous I was. But I picked a pattern. It was a huge shawl. Now, my daughter is average height. And so she says. I think average height is 5'6", but she's 5'4". Whatever. Anyway, this shawl was absolutely huge. And I had this idea that I wanted to do beads. And I don't know why I wanted to do that, because I had never made a shawl with beads before. Anything with beads. I had never knit with beads before. Now I have a lot of beads, and I've used a lot of beads because I was making jewelry in a previous life. Speaking of which, my niece made these earrings. Aren't they great? She's making jewelry now. And I'm like, oh, I want those. I bought them from her. So I have a lot of beads and I've used a lot of beads, but I had this idea. I wanted to put beads in her shawl. Now her wedding dress, as you will see in these pictures, is white with blue embroidery. And so I decided to put blue beads in this shawl. And so I picked this shawl, which the name I can't remember, and said, I'm going to make that. Now, keeping in mind, I had, at that point, 4 weeks till the wedding and zero mojo. And so I picked this amazingly large shawl that took 5,000 beads. And I had never done beading. I'm ridiculous. I know that. So it didn't take me long to figure out that I was ridiculous and I shouldn't do that. Now, in between the time that I picked that pattern and decided I was ridiculous, I ordered 5,000 beads. So I have a lot of beads. I changed my mind and did a different pattern, and the pattern I picked was called the Twilight Waltz, a bunny muff knit pattern. Twilight Waltz, a bunny muff knit pattern. And the picture on the pattern is terrible. Really. Doesn't give you very much information. But it was a lovely shawl that had lace and beads, and it had a nice amount of bead. Now, I wish I had my video because I showed you the beautiful thing, but I have pictures of it. I have pictures of it when I was blocking it, but it was on top of a quilt. I have a little video that I didn't even watch the whole video. I wanted to show people how I was putting in the fringe. Originally, she thought she didn't want fringe, but when she saw the picture of it and I talked about it as I was knitting it, she changed her mind and decided she wanted fringe, which I was perfectly happy with because I like it with the fringe. You are now being listened to, in case you were wondering. So I'm trying to do a video of how I'm doing the fringe on Christy's shawl. I'm just putting in my crochet hook and that. And I'm going to be editing this because that didn't work very well. It usually works better, but that's what happens when then I wrap it around like that. Don't mind the band-aid. And I do like well, there you go. It's like a little bind off stitch. Then I get another, I'm doing two threads at a time. There's no way to do this quietly in my house. I don't even know if you can friggin' see what I'm doing. Friggin', I shouldn't say that either. I'm gonna do this without sound, so you guys can talk. I'm just gonna take the sound off. I can't believe it. I can't get through what I'm watching. Quit laughing, you. Alright. One more, just in case you can see it, and just in case you can't see it. One or the other. I'm not sure which. So I'm using two threads doubled over. These are yarns, not threads. This is the same yarn that I did the shawl in. And I'm doing one set of 2 per stitch. There we go. That's how it's supposed to look. And then over and voila. And there we go. And if that worked, great. If it didn't work, too bad, because I'm almost done. So it had fringe. Now let's see if there's any chance I have the ball band from the yarn left in because I did this whole video. I don't remember where I was when I did the video. I apparently wasn't here. Anyway, I don't have the ball band. I will look up what the yarn is as best I can and put it in the show notes below. But it's Juniper Moon lace weight. I think it's 50% wool, 50% silk. It is a shiny, gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful yarn. And because I bought the beads and the yarn thinking I was making this gigantic shawl, I have leftovers. Isn't that pretty? It's really beautiful, lovely. It was lovely to knit with. And yeah, and I'm so glad I decided to make that shawl, I have to say. So here's the video of me showing, you know, I did a little video for my vlog showing me, you know, people how I was putting on the fringe. So I'll show that, and you'll get to see something of the shawl in that. And here's some pictures, and here is my gorgeous daughter on her wedding day wearing the shawl. Now, as it happened, it wasn't cool. It was kind of just right, and so she did not actually need the shawl, but I had her put it on so I could take pictures of it. And full disclosure, I'm sure she wants me to tell you, it had already rained. She had been dancing in the rain prior to this, which is why her hair is a little, you know, rained on. It was a wonderful, wonderful wedding. We had a lovely time. It was a fabulous party, and a wonderful time was had by all. It was so, so lovely. I'll put a couple other pictures in here because my granddaughters were so cute. Come in, wow. Come in. Go in the kitchen. She's in the kitchen. Gorgeous. Is that pretty? Do you like that? Yeah. So you can keep that and you don't have it. It won't ever die.
Alrighty.
This is so exciting. My boys and I came from Illinois, so.
Knock on that.
No, they didn't know what to do, and she blamed me on her floss tube. I don't know if you watch her floss tube, but if you did, about the wedding, she blamed me. Like, it was my mother's idea to have the girls, but she didn't tell them what to do. It's not my job to tell them what to do. It was her job to tell them what to do. So she can blame me all she wants. I'm not owning that. I had this great idea to have these two adorable girls be her attendants. And is she thanking me for that? No. She's blaming me because nobody told them that they were supposed to go find Uncle Rich. Anyway, they did okay, and they looked adorable. So anyway, so my first finished object is this gorgeous, gorgeous wedding shawl in Juniper Moon yarn for my wonderful daughter on her wedding day. And I have to tell you that I was a little bit apprehensive because when I say no mojo, I am not kidding. I didn't start this till August. You know, and my last podcast was in May, so I was in no mojo land. Serious no mojo land at that moment. But I just thought, I'm going to really regret it if I don't make her a shawl. And I knew she would love a shawl because she's very knit-worthy. And she did love it. She just didn't need it. So anyway, so you've seen the pictures of her in it. You've seen the pictures of it. of it being blocked. You saw the yarn, which is so yummy. Oh my gosh. And I don't know how much I have left, but yeah, it's pretty yummy. So, and I have to say, knitting that really kick-started a little bit of return of my mojo. I'm not fully mojoed. I'm not full up with mojo yet, but it's clearly coming, and I'm feeling very hopeful. It doesn't hurt that it's a little bit sweater weather here. It's cooling off, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, that mojo thing was such a drag. So 2 weeks ago, well, I'm going to go completely out of order here. Since the beginning of the year, Christy and I were working on her temperature library pattern that she designed for her and I to do a temperature library, a temperature stitching in 2021. And we were doing it pretty regularly. I'm doing the embroidery version, which is not my normal thing. When I stitch, which I haven't done a lot of lately because mojo, when I stitch, I usually do cross stitch. But I thought, let me do the embroidery pattern. She does embroidery. If you don't watch her floss tube, you should. She's amazing. Her things she makes are amazing. She's a historian. Her last video she put up this week was about medieval bestiaries, and you know, which she did a stitching of one of her bestiaries. Anyway, I highly recommend it. A lot of people enjoy it, not just me, her mother. Yeah, I'm just saying. So anyway, this is the temperature library that she designed and that we worked on. And I was stitching this on Sundays because I have, oh, it's Sunday. What time is it? Oh, I have stitching with Christy tonight. I better speed up. Anyway, you know, on Sunday nights we would stitch together, and we would both work on our temperature libraries, and I was stitching along and I was keeping up pretty well until, as you can see, January, February, March, April, May, June. June I started to fall behind. By the time we got to July, August, September, So what happened was I did a little traveling this year. One of the things I did was I took a train trip in the end of May to visit Christy in Mississippi. She lives in Mississippi. And that was so much fun. It was a 24-hour train ride from Philadelphia to Tuscaloosa, and she picked me up there. And I just stayed for a few days, and then she took me back to the train, and I took the train back. And it was so much fun. I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed so much my visit with her. I really enjoyed the train ride. I had gotten it bugging my ear that I wanted to do go on a train, and I did it, and it was so much fun. So we stitched together then, and that was fine. But I also had made plans to visit my sister in Boise. And I think during that trip, which was lovely, and it was so nice to see her, and then she flew back with me, and we went to visit our parents, and it was a really nice, really 2 weeks with my sister, and it was lovely. But it meant that I didn't have my Sunday stitching night with Christy. I got out of order, and I have no idea why I'm talking about this, other than to say it has been abandoned at this point. I will talk later about my plans for next year, but it has been abandoned. Oh, and there's my scissors. No wonder I couldn't find them. I couldn't find my good little clippy scissors. Well, there you go. I'm leaving them in there because I'll take this back. Maybe I won't. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you know that this has been abandoned. Okay, this is how it goes in my blog too. I have no idea why I started talking about this, where my thought process was going with this, to be perfectly honest with you. But anyway, now you know, I have abandoned my... Oh, I know why. Because so I'm not working on that anymore when I do my crafting with Christy. And a couple of weeks ago, I just decided I was working on I have one of my whips, which I'll talk about and show you, is another boxy, because I got to the point I just needed to knit stockinette. If I'm gonna knit stockinette, I don't want to think about it. I went through quite a long period where I didn't feel like I really wanted to think about anything. I'm blaming COVID. I'm not sure. I just didn't want to think. I didn't want to think. But stockinette is soothing, so I was making another boxy. I mean, you want to do stockinette, I highly recommend knit a boxy. So I stopped working on my bookshelf with Christy, and I wanted to do something, and I decided to cast on a cowl. I really like cowls. My house, we keep our house pretty chilly. We keep it at 68 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter time. It's usually pretty chilly. I'm chilly normally anyway, and if I'm sitting and knitting or sitting and not moving around very much, I get cold, and at 68 I get very chilly. I often have like a hooded sweatshirt on or a hat or something. So and I've discovered that I really like cowls. You can put them on and they stay. You don't have to fuss with them. You know, like a shawl, you always end up repositioning your shawl and things. Don't get me wrong, I love a shawl. I have a lot of shawls I like. But I decided I would like a cowl. So I cast on a cowl. And I cast on the bandana cowl, which is a free pattern from Pearl Soho. And the yarn I used was a yarn that I had gotten from Knitcrate. And I had made at the beginning of the year, in January or February, I had made a hat. I wrote down the name of the hat that I made. It was the Northward hat, which has cables and stuff. That was before I lost my mojo. It's a really cute hat with a pom-pom. I should have bought it, but I didn't. And with Knitcrate, you get 2 skeins of yarn, and I had used 1 whole skein of yarn and maybe a little more, but at least 1 whole skein of yarn for the hat. And I decided to make a cowl, so I made the bandana cowl. And here you go. I made it. I made a thing. I have a finished object that I can actually show you. I made a thing. I made the bandana cowl. Now you can see in the picture it's supposed to have the same edging on the neck as it has on the bottom. I have a funny stitch there that's showing up a lot on the video. It doesn't show up so much in person. So I have a roll top because I knit this to the very end and then I had to stop. So it's a stockinette roll top instead of that edging. Now, oh, probably has alpaca. I'm going to have it in my lipstick. In the end, I don't think it makes any difference, you know, because it's going to be mushed down and rolled and whatever. I think it looks great and I'm really, really happy with it. I knit, I'll find my picture from Instagram that I put on Instagram. I failed at Yarn Chicken. I had about 15 or 20 stitches more to cast off and I had this much yarn left. I'm like, oh no. So what I had to do is I had to go back. I pulled it back and I took the extra yarn I had because I had a little yarn when I started, and I have it when I often do a short tail cast on, and I use the beginning and the end of the yarn so I don't have to estimate. But what that means is you end up having 2 ends at the beginning of your project, which came in handy or whatever is the reason I ran out of yarn. And so I ended up cutting, I used every inch of yarn. And in fact, to do my cast off, I had to unwind the plies of my yarn, and half of my cast off is cast off with 1 ply of yarn. And I think I'm mistaken. I think I was knitting along and then said, oh shoot, I have this much yarn. So I had to cast off this cowl with 1 ply of a 2-ply yarn because I didn't have enough yarn. I lost at Yarn Chicken. So anyway, it's rolled at the top. I don't find that to be any problem at all. I really enjoyed this and it knit up really, really quick. And it's called the Bandana Cowl by Pearl Soho. And it is free. So I recommend it. I had a good time knitting it, even with no mojo, and it didn't take very long. And there's something super, super satisfying about having a little project and finishing it when you don't have any mojo. It really is great. So I'm really, really happy with it. It matches my hat, which I wear when I walk the dogs. Now, the back of it is not very deep. And I have some sweaters that I think if I were sitting around the house, the back of it might not be, I don't know if you can see, the back of it might not be deep enough to, like, you know, warm up the back of my neck. So this may not be the perfect cowl for sitting in my living room when I'm cold. However, it is the perfect cowl for my coat. And it matches my hat. So this is my walking the dog cowl for when I need a walking the dog cowl, which I haven't yet needed, but you know, it won't be long. So I'm very excited and I really enjoyed it. This is a lovely yarn, and like I said, it's a Knitcrate yarn and they have their own brand, and I don't remember anything about it, and I don't have any tags. I think if you looked at my January or February podcast, when I made the hat, I might have had more information there, but I'm not sure. I was just looking at my notes in my book, and my book didn't have any more notes than that. So that was a Saturday crafting with my daughter on my Sunday. My Sunday crafting with Christy output. So, excuse me. I don't know, I'm moving forward because I have another finished object. Part of the reason that I wasn't podcasting was it's supposed to be a knitting podcast, and I wasn't knitting, and I didn't have any finished objects, and now I don't even have the video for the finished objects of Christy's sweater, which is or shawl, which is really annoying. I almost didn't do this because I was so annoyed. Now I got the hiccups. So I made that cowl, and I thought, wow, that was fun. I knit that. I enjoyed knitting it. I knitted it, you know, and it just felt so nice. So, I don't know, 2 days later or something, I'm like, well, you know, that cowl isn't going to keep me warm in my house, which sounds a little odd, but is true. Because it's not long enough in the back. Let me look for another cowl that I've had my eye on, and maybe I should knit that. And that cowl is the Getting Warmer by the ladies from Espace Tricot. This is Melissa Kluglo, and I don't have it in color, but it looks so lovely, and I thought, I've always liked this one. Why don't I make it? And as you might recall, not in here because my bins are empty, I have a, shall we say, shit ton of Indicita DK, which is an alpaca yarn. It's 100% luxurious baby alpaca. Now, when I went to put this in Ravelry, and I've told you this before, the only people who also had it on Ravelry had also got it in the same place I did. And there's a big tourist market in Lima, Peru called the Indian Market. That's where I got my Indicita DK. And I got, I think, 6 colors of this. And I got 10 balls of each color. I brought home so much alpaca. I have a tendency to buy this weird stuff that, you know, what am I going to do without a plan? And, you know, I have slowly but surely been using this alpaca because I've made at least 1 shawl out of it. I think 2 shawls. I made 2 shawls out of it. I made a sweater out of it. By the Espace Tricot ladies, I made the Paloma out of another color that I had. And so this was the only color. Most of the colors I got were some form of a color that looked like it was a natural color. Not necessarily actually a natural color. They were probably dyed, but they were grays and browns and beiges and, you know, cream color. This was the only color I got. I'm going to dump my tea all over my lap. And it is a beautiful burgundy. So I made the Getting Warmer out of the alpaca. And the alpaca is a DK, and I held it double. And this is a warm and lovely cowl. I have not woven in the ends yet. I'm doing a little knit Mean Girls, you know. Don't weave in the ends. Fringe. So this is what it looks like as a cowl. Oops. Just like this. It's a little bulky or whatever, that's fine. It's nice and big in the back and I can stay really warm. But the cool thing about this is it pulls down into like a little bit of a capelet. And so you can be super, super, super comfy, a little bit elegant. You can have a cowl on, and then if it gets really chilly, you can cover the tops of your arms, and it is wonderful. So I knit this in one day. Me with no mojo, and I got started knitting, and I decided I was knitting, and I knit this in one day. I only have two ends. I'm gonna deal with my ends, but this lives downstairs. I had to bring it up from, you know, that random place that stuff ends up, and because this is going to be my cowl slash shawl. I always have a shawl downstairs or something to keep me warm, and this is what it's going to be this year, this winter. Plus, this one will be around because this is what I'm going to wear under my coat. So in 1 week, I had 2 finished objects. And that's when I thought maybe I really could do a podcast because I have a shawl and 2 cowl. What the heck? So there you go. These are my finished objects. And I am going to be so snuggly warm, let me tell you. The other things I finished, but I couldn't find them to show you, are the pockets. I knit some pockets for my super bulky grandpa sweater that I knit in episode number 2 5 years ago. If you want to go back to episode 2, you'll see it. And I'm sure you will be seeing it this winter because I wore it today walking the dogs. It was perfect. It was like 62 and damp and blowy, or 65. I was so comfy in that sweater. I was so happy to have it. And I'd be really happy when I find those stupid pockets so I can sew them onto my sweater. If I had sewn them on right away, then I would have known where they were. They would have been on my sweater, but they're not. Anyway, so there you go. Finished objects. What do you think? Now, whips. I have 2 whips to show you, and 3, and I want to talk about as a potential thing to pick back up depending on my mojo, because the mojo thing is so huge, so huge. So back in the spring, it was probably early summer, because I don't think I talked about this in my last podcast. No. Everything I talked about, all the whips I talked about in my last podcast, I haven't done anything with them in 5 months. So if you were waiting for the Hermitage shawl or the Mobius, none of that stuff. Not doing. What I did was, as I said, I was like, I have to. If I'm going to knit, I need to knit stockinette. And so I own 2 boxies, and I have knit 3 boxies for Christmas. I knit 3 boxies for Christmas presents last year. So this needing to knit a boxy is not new for me. This is a COVID thing. So I'm in my, it's been 20 months now, 18 months. And I knit 3 boxies for Christmas last year. Christy got one, and my 2 nieces each got one. But come June, and I'm like, I can't do it. I have no brain space to do anything that needs any thinking. I don't want to think about anything. Well, my advice to you is, if you want to knit stockinette in the round and you don't want to do anything, I know a lot of people knit socks, but you don't go very far till you need to put in a heel. If you're knitting a boxy, you can knit for a very long time before you have to do any thinking. So as I said at the time, I don't need another boxy for sure, but I really did need to knit a boxy at that time. That's what I needed. And I knit. And I didn't do a lot of knitting. It wasn't like the olden days when I was usually knitting all the time. I mean, I was knitting periodically. I was painting. I was vegging. I was reading. You know, but when I knit, I didn't want to think, and I was working on a boxy, and it took me, and in my normal knitting mojo, I'm a pretty fast knitter. I don't know exactly when I started this boxy. It could have been in July, might have been June or July, but it is now October, and last night, I was so excited. Last night, I finished the body of this boxy. I did the shoulders. When you match them, you do a 3-needle bind off. I did my 3-needle bind offs last night, and I have done the body of my boxy. So all I have to do is the sleeves and the little rolled neckline, and I will be done. As it turns out, this is a gift. Now this yarn, I have to wind my last skein of yarn. This yarn is, I showed you this yarn back in the fall of last year, because this is the yarn I dyed when I was trying to make a speckled yarn for Christy's boxy back for Christmas last year. And as you can see, I mean, I guess you could call this speckled, but it just didn't read speckled to me. When she asked for speckled, this certainly isn't what I imagined. And so I dyed another yarn for her, and I did hers in yarn that I dyed, and it came out completely different than this. Actually, I made Rich some fingerless mints out of this yarn for his Christmas present last year. And I actually really, really, really love the way it's knitting up. I'm so happy with it. I am so happy with it. And as I said, it will be a gift again because I have 2 boxies. And this is the last skein of it. And I have to cake this up because this will be for the sleeves and for the neckline. But this was made, this is a Knitpicks Stroll base, I'm pretty sure, in the, undyed, and then I dyed it. And I am actually pretty tickled with how it's turning out. So that felt like a good milestone yesterday when I finished the body. The sleeves on a boxy are so tiny that I'm very nearly done. And I am enjoying it. I really, really love the way the yarn is knitting up, I have to say. One other thing that I've been working on is, oops, wrong bag. Here's the bag. Here's the bag. The other thing that I've been working on is my blanket. Now, I did a granny stripe throw that I have on my couch. And I really loved it. It's a scrappy blanket, and it has a lot of memories. A lot of the yarns were gifted to me, or I use them, But when you have low mojo, you don't make a lot of scraps, which is going to be an interesting problem for me, because my next blanket, which I started, and here it is. It looks like it's going really well, doesn't it? Look at it. My next blanket, unfortunately, is king size. So every row takes forever. So here you go. Every row takes forever. I was gonna do, I am not kidding. Every row takes forever. I was gonna do like a weigh the yarn and try to figure out how much yarn one row takes, because it's a double crochet, which is triple crochet in Britain, in English style. And OMG. It is crazy. All right, so this is quartered. So I've now quartered it. And this is how long it is quartered. So this is a king-size bed. This will be a king-size bed blanket. Every once in a while, Dennis teases me, when's my blanket getting finished? So this is what I've been working on. It's actually quite heavy. I had to tear back at one point not that long ago because I put in a row and then I realized, wait a minute, I don't think that's superwash yarn. And I got to have superwash yarn in this because, you know, it's a blanket. What the heck are you going to do? I mean, it's already going to be immense and hard to deal with. And as you can see, I'm doing 4 rows of colors from minis and such, and then 2 rows of undyed yarn in between. Just, gives it a little more sophistication, a little more structure, and it doesn't take quite so many minis. I'm gonna have to start making socks if I'm gonna keep up with this. But I do have lots and lots of minis because I've had lots of advents and exchanges over the years. So I have lots of minis. But I am going to be trying to figure out how to finish this in 2 or 3 or 4 years whenever I get to that point. But anyway, so there you go. I use a 3.75 millimeter hook on that, in case you wondered. I have no idea the size of the needles I used on anything else. I used whatever the pattern called for, so I could look it up for you, but you could look it up yourself. Okay, last and tiniest is my latest cast on because those of you who have watched before, and if you haven't watched it before, welcome. Thank you for joining me. We're doing a year-long knit-along in our group called the Ode to Joy Make-Along, and anything that you're doing, absolutely anything that you're making with your hands that is bringing you joy qualifies. If you're cooking, if you're weaving, if you're spinning, if you're knitting, if you're painting, whatever you're doing with your hands that's bringing you joy, it counts. And so we're having a year-long make-along. And there are monthly prizes. And in in August, the prize, I gave 2 prizes, 2, maybe 3, pattern prizes. And the wonderful, lovely Lisa in Ireland won, and she picked the Forest Park cardigan. Now, here I am in the middle of my no Mojo life, and she picked the Forest Park cardigan, which looks so cozy and warm. And this is not color work. This is mosaic. Now, if you've been around a while, you know color work didn't work for me when I did my Novelli. I hated every stitch of that color work. I love this. I love how it looks. I love how color work looks. I love my sweater. I hated knitting it. I mean, I know you lived through me whining and complaining the whole time, and I apologize again for that. But I love mosaic. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so cozy, and I love mosaic. And as it happened, I have this yarn, and I'm the world's worst podcaster because I cannot tell you anything about this yarn in terms of who made it or anything like that. This yarn was a gift to me quite a few years ago. I participated in the Fiber Share. And Fiber Share is a yarn exchange, and it works. It's not that you and someone else exchange yarn between the two of you. You send yarn to someone and someone else sends yarn and stuff, exchange package to you. So I got this beautiful yarn from Mane, who was my partner who was sending me yarn. And it turned out She lives in Santiago, Chile, and she is the most sweet, amazing woman you can imagine. Her husband, Javier, is equally sweet and amazing. And she sent me lots and lots of this yarn. She sent me a few skeins at the time for the fiber share, and she and I started conversing and communicating. Turns out she works in the travel department, main travel department of the government of Chile, and Dennis and I were planning to go to Chile. So she sent me all kinds of stuff, and she and her husband came to visit in the United States. Unfortunately, I couldn't meet them in New York to meet them at that time. But while she was there, she mailed me another package of more of this yarn. And it's beautiful, beautiful, lovely soft yarn. And most of it is this sort of minty green color. That's not terribly off. And she sent me a couple of skeins of this gray color in exactly the same yarn. Now this yarn is a little bit bigger. I'm sure it has alpaca in it. It's a little bit thicker than worsted. And in fact, I knit, it's all knit, balled up and kind of a mess because I knit this into a worsted boxy, which did not work. It's too thick of yarn. It wasn't the least drapey. It was terrible. So I took it out. So I have all kinds of balls of this yarn. But I love the yarn, and it's such an interesting color. I don't know that I would ever have bought this color, but I love it. It's a very light sherbety green and lovely. And it's so soft. And I've wanted to do something with it. I have literally had this yarn for 3 or 4 years now. 3 years at least. 4 years probably. And I haven't figured out what to do with it yet. And there we are. We have the Forest Park cardigan by K. Hopkins, Knit for the Soul, K. Hopkins, Forest Park cardigan. And I have gray and then the green. And I thought, oh, that might work. And I really want a cozy sweater. But, you know, at that moment with low mojo, I thought I want to own that sweater. But do I want to knit that sweater? I don't know. The more I thought about it, and I'm starting to get a little mojo back. So the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I really want to own that sweater. And I'm only going to own it if I make it and I have yarn for it. So I talked about it on my vlog, and I'm sure you all know I'm doing a daily vlog, which is one of the reasons I haven't done a podcast, because I put out a vlog every day, except for very few days since Corona started. I did vlog number 549 today. So I've been on the internet a lot. I just haven't been doing podcasts. As I'm sure you know, you probably silenced me or unsubscribed or whatever, because it's like I can't stand seeing this woman's face every day. I get that. But so I talked about it on my blog and said I had kind of looked it up and realized that, you know, I want to make hats, and there's a hat using this pattern that's really cute, and there's a children's sized version of this, and there's a mosaic shawl, all kind of using the same motif that I really liked, and it was a ebook pattern book for 4 patterns that I was thinking about getting. Well, the wonderful, lovely Lisa gifted me that ebook with those 4 patterns. So you will be seeing that hat and probably the shawl, but definitely the hat in a later podcast. But meanwhile, back in the range. So it was a little bit ironic because I gifted her this pattern as a winner of the make along, and she gifted it back to me. And so we've decided we're doing a cozy cardigan / sweater make along. And we would love you to join us. And there's no starting time. Some people have already started, including me. Other people, you know, are waiting for their yarn. There's no end date that that anybody has decided on. And, you know, we're just plowing ahead. And, you know, the prize is that you get a gorgeous cozy sweater. Whether there are other prices, I don't know. I have so much yarn. All this yarn is on the guest bed and whatever. Anyway, so I did the 3 needle bind off on the shoulders on my boxy yesterday, and I thought, I'm casting on my Forest Park cardigan. And so I did. And there you go. So I cast on and I did the setup row. And then, as I said on my vlog this morning, I was really tired. I had not slept. I mean, literally, I had slept probably a total of an hour the night before and maybe that much the night before that. So I was really, really tired last night. And so I cast on my new sweater and then I read this section before starting full increase rows, as center front increases are worked at the same time as the raglan seam increases to shape the center front V. Keep track of these center front increases as worked through the full and partial increase sections. I folded up my pattern, I stuck it in the bag, and I got a glass of water and I started reading. I'm like, I have no brain space to think about what that's trying to tell me, so I think I'm done. But I started it. It's a work in progress. And I will be working on it because I love this yarn. Did I show you my swatch? Where's my swatch? So I did a swatch. Oh no, that's an old swatch. Where's my swatch? Oh, here it is. So before I started, once I got the pattern and I did a swatch, and I did a swatch as directed using the larger needle. There are 3 sizes of needle used throughout this. Using the larger needle size, which is a 6. They said do the swatch and block it so that you know exactly what it is. So the gauge for this pattern is 20 stitches for 4 inches. The gauge I got, because my yarn is not worsted, it's bigger than worsted, I got 16 stitches to 4 inches. So I decided that I was just going to go with it. I like the fabric. I'm going to go with it. And so I did some calculations to pick the correct size, knowing that I needed a smaller size to knit from because I was, 20 stitches was going to be 5 inches and a little bit instead of the 4 inches. So I went down a size in the pattern. But I will tell you, and that I am concerned because when I looked at the number of stitches, at one point after you split for the arms, it tells you how many stitches you should have in this cardigan. It was a lot of stitches. It was like 250 stitches. And for the smaller size, and 250 stitches at 4 stitches an inch seems like it's going to be too big. But when I look at the size that I thought I was going to knit, assuming I got the right size, it would be the same number of inches. So I don't know how this is going to work out, to tell you the truth. But it's supposed to be cozy and squishy, and I don't know. Maybe I will message Chevy Rel because she's been knitting this sweater, so she may be able to give me a little bit of guidance in terms of how big hers is and what she thinks about that. I might just do that because Chevy Rel's doing this sweater. She's well along in it, and it looks lovely. And anyway, I'm excited. So I'm going to be doing some mosaic on this sweater, and there you go. That's my other whip. Now, the other thing I have in here somewhere in some project bag somewhere that I haven't worked on in a long time is my Silberling. And I was reminded about my Silberling when I was looking back on my notes to try to figure out what the heck I did and when I did it. And I thought, oh, my Silberling is such a beautiful green color and maybe I should want to do that. So it'll be on my radar once I finish the boxy, if I want to have more than one project going. But I also see myself making more hats. I've been feeling very bald and thinking, oh, you know, I could wear hats all the time in the winter. What the heck? And they'd be gorgeous and whatever. And I don't, you know, and I've always thought, why do I need so many hats? I already have 4 or 5 hats, you know. I mean, how many hats does a person need? But that's a silly question. Just like when my mother asked me, how many sweaters do you need? I'm like, you know, I don't know, Mama. I'll find out when I get there. Maybe I'll find out when I get there. I thought 5 was enough, but apparently 5 hats are not enough. So we shall see. We shall see. Oh, the other thing that I did for Christy's wedding was I made her wedding book. I have been doing a little bookmaking. I don't know how that happened. Oh, let me grab my book. Here's one book that I made. This is a sketchbook, and the outside pages are very, very, very super heavy watercolor paper, and then the inside are regular watercolor paper. And so I made a sketchbook, and I forget, I think this is called like a Japanese binding or something. Anyway, I made this one. I made another little tiny sketchbook, and I made Christy's wedding book. And I did a little video of Christy's wedding book to show people on my blog, and I'll show you too. Okay, with Dennis's help, I have designed the pages, and Dennis implemented it for me because that's how he is. He knows all about Word. So now I am cutting them. It was just easier to do 1 page per cardstock, so I'm getting a little stack of cardstock that I will use to make cards at another time. So here we have the guest will sign their name, and then thoughts and wishes for Christy and Rich. And Christy's planning on putting a picture of everybody on the other side. And so when I put them all together, they will turn into a book. And I will show you how that works once I get these done. Just a quick little video of the guest book that I made for Christy yesterday. The cover art, this is Isabel's version of a bird. I hope I got it right. And then Sammy did hearts. And so the cover art is from her nieces, who are her attendants. And I put, this is a detail from their invitation. Mr. Wicket Bartholomew Di Clementi Sobolewski invites you to the marriage of his favorite people. So Wicket is my grand dog, of course. And then here is the details, other details from the invitation, just to have the name, the dates, and everything there. And then we go into the pages of the book that's designed for each guest to do a whole page, just some thoughts or whatever, their name and then their thoughts. And this page is left intentionally blank because on the opposite page, Christy's having a photographer, and we're all getting our pictures taken, and so she is planning on putting pictures of each of the guests on the opposite page. So lots of pages for guests to sign, and then there's some blank pages in the back because she wanted to place to put more pictures. So there you go. This is the guest book for Christy's wedding. I think it turned out pretty cute. So that was Christy's wedding book. Her colors were gold and teal. And I was very happy with it, and she was happy with it too. So that was fun. So that's another thing I've been doing. I've been doing odds and ends, you know, just picking up things, odds and ends. So last but not least, my plans, my future plans are, Christy has designed temperature patterns for 2022, and I plan to do them, and I plan to do better than I did this year because I'm going to do the cross stitch ones, not the embroidery ones. The other thing is that she designed another temperature library similar to the one that she did for this year, and here's a picture of it for 2022. And I think she's going to have an embroidery version and a cross stitch version of that. But the one I'm going to do is the one that was inspired by Chevas of the Chevy Rail Stuff podcast and me. Christy said that we were her inspirations because she decided to do drink shelves. Because I do like a nice cocktail, and you all know Chevy Rail of the Chevy Rail Stuff podcast loves a cocktail. So anyway, and her you know, tagline is grab your drink, and there you go. There you go. So I plan to do this. It's a cross stitch pattern, and I plan to do this, and I'm going to do it out of the called for colors, because the other problem that I had with my bookshelf for this year was I ran out of some of the colors. I was using the embroidery floss that I got in my DeVere Yarns advent calendar last year, and I ran out of some of them, and I was going to have to send away for it, and I lost, you know, whatever. Anyway, so I will be using the called for DMC colors, and I'm very excited about that. And I'm going to be kitting this up and have a giveaway in November or December for anyone who would like to join Chevas and me doing the drinks shelf. So that's my plan. That's my plan. My future plans are the Silberling, finish that up, and next year I'm going to be doing the cross stitch version of the drinks. I think she's only having cross stitch version of that one. And there you go. So I want to finish up the Ode to Joy make-along. Is a year-long make-along, as I mentioned before. If you are doing anything that brings you joy, please join us. There's a thread in Ravelry. Pictures, we love pictures, and we want to see what you're doing, whatever it is. It can be cooking, it can be painting, it can be knitting, crochet, spinning, weaving, sewing, winemaking, whatever you want to do. We want to hear about it if it's bringing you joy. And we've decided that we're just going to keep going, and 2022 will also have an Ode to Joy make-along. So hoping that we keep the joy going, because we can all use joy, right? So the September winner of the prize is a beautiful skein of yarn. Here it is, donated by the lovely Peggy, and includes the Joji Locatelli pattern of your choice. And the winner for September is Tammy 1962. Congratulations, Tammy 1962. Please get in touch with me. Either message me on Ravelry or message me on Instagram, Diva S, for both of those, or email me at flameandfiber@mindspring.com. And Peggy will send you that beautiful, beautiful yarn. And thank you again, Peggy. That was so, so sweet. So sweet. And the wonderful Mary Ann, while she was at the New Jersey Sheep and Wool, she thought of us, and she put together this really wonderful prize package for October. And it is a fingerless mitts kit with some spinning wheel, stitch markers, and a Hugga, H-U-G-G-E, kit that she's put together, you know, one of those lovely cozy kits, you know, Hugga, you know what I mean. Anyway, there it is, and that's the prize for October. And once again, since it's such a nice prize, it will be a picture post that wins. So be sure and post pictures of the things that you're doing that are bringing you joy, because we would surely love to see them. Thank you so much for everybody who's participating. It's so wonderful to see what you're doing, and I really appreciate it. So, Tammy, 1962, get in touch with me so that Peggy can send you that beautiful prize package, and everybody else, get your pictures in, because Marianne has such a wonderful prize for us for October. Thank you again, ladies. So kind of you. I cannot tell you how lovely that is. I really appreciate it. So anyway, that's the deal. So we're having the Knit a Cozy Sweater make along for anybody who wants to knit a cozy sweater. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere and coming on summer, your cozy sweater could be a summer sweater. We don't care. Whatever you think is cozy works for me. So that's fun. And I will be putting a thread in Ravelry for that. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to be. And the Ode to Joy make-along is ongoing. We will continue after the end of the year. In December, we're going to have a big grand prize, and it's going to be wonderful. So please, please, if it's bringing you joy, let us know so that we can enjoy it with you. We would really like to do that. So let me check my notes in case I forgot anything, because it's almost 9 o'clock, and I have my Knitting with Christy coming up. So this is not going up today because I have other things to do. Listen to me. I'm so busy. Anyway, I think that's it. I don't see anything else. So I'm looking forward to seeing your cozy sweaters and those of you who want to join us. And I'm, of course, anything that's bringing you joy. And just a reminder, I'm vlogging almost every day, except, you know, when an event is coming. But I do have an event next week. I will be on vacation. Dennis's family goes to the Outer Banks every year in October. We, of course, missed last year because of COVID. Some of our family who normally would be there is going to miss this year because of COVID. They have COVID, which is really terrible. And so, but we are going, and Dennis's mom is going too, so that'll be fun. And so that's next week. I have no idea what I'm going to do with the vlog next week, but we'll see what happens. We do have internet. It's possible I'll do the vlog, but I will be taking video, and I will be sketching and painting seascapes for sure, and working on my boxy and my forest park for sure, and who knows what else I'll be doing. So I'll be talking about that on the vlog if you have any interest. And maybe it won't be 5 months before I do a podcast again. If I get my mojo back and have things to talk about on a podcast, then I'll do that. So I will see you in the not too distant future. And tomorrow, if you're a vlog watcher, and please, please, take very good care of yourselves, and I hope you have lots and lots and lots of time to do the crafting that brings you joy, and we would love to see what brings you joy in the thread on the Ode to Joy make-along, and we'd love to see it. So please take good care of yourselves, everybody. Please, please, please. Bye.